Um, okay, I'm restarting the stream. It's actually, if I was going to lose internet exactly between the open projector and the start of featured presenters is a good time to to do it. But that wasn't in the middle of anyone's talk. Oh, you see me? Fantastic. Hey, what's up, everyone? Really sorry about that. Um, you can send your feedback to Optimum Internet of New York. I'm sure they would love to hear from all of you. I know I emailed them, but I'm sure it would mean a lot more coming from you. So thank you so much for bearing with me here. I hope we didn't lose too many of you. Yeah, I got my internet back online, so I'm hoping we'll be up and running again. But yeah, it's still showing us as having 0 viewers, but I still see you there in the chat. So I hope there's more than 0 of you in here. Okay, let's get on with the show here. When life gives you lemons, use that lemonade and get rich. We are going to move on to our first featured presenter here, who is a returning WordHack, as all of our presenters tonight are, a returning WordHack guest. We have Angie Waller here with us. Angie is an artist and designer and a experimental publisher under the name Unknown Unknowns. She's presented in the past about the fascinating world of Amazon ebook grifts. Really excited to see what she has for us this evening. Please give it up for Angie Waller. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Oh, you unmuted me. I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of a slow. I'm like in a fog right now, but hold on a second. I will warm up. Gosh. All righty. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Todd, for hosting the WordHack. I'm really excited to be a repeat presenter. My name is Angie Waller. As Todd said, I published under the imprint Unknown Unknowns. And the premise around Unknown Unknowns is they're books that are written by ghostwriters, computers, and other automatic means. And the website where you can find all of these books is unknownunknowns.org. As Todd mentioned, I'm an artist and designer researcher. I currently work at The Markup, which is a data journalism nonprofit where we are looking at like auditing algorithms and kind of reverse engineer to see how big tech is affecting our lives. Before working at The Markup, I was at Data and Society, working as a designer and managing the website. And then recently I completed my master's degree in computational linguistics. I am imagining most people in this audience know what computational linguistics is, but basically I do programming research. I research online text, and I'm looking at how interfaces might influence how people interact with each other online. And my thesis was a very spicy topic that was about the website Rate My Professors and things that happened after they removed the chili pepper from their website. So you can check that out. So basically, when I'm doing research around computational linguistics, I'm using this cheesy graphic from The Social Dilemma, but kind of thinking about like how interfaces affect the way we communicate, and then like how much algorithms might be affecting the things we say. But when I'm working on my books, I also am more embracing these sorts of influences, and I'm thinking of things just as simple as Microsoft Word, where I'm often being nudged that I speak in passive voice, but we're being nudged about our spelling and things of that nature, which is also an algorithm. And I really love this book by Matthew Kirschenbaum, who he went and talked to a lot of different authors about how their writing is influenced or impacted by using word processors, or if they've just chosen to not use word processors altogether. And he had a quote from Jacques Derrida, which Um, some of you probably are familiar, kind of writes really long sentences. Often they go 3 pages long. And I found it interesting that Derrida said that he actually appreciated when Microsoft Word encouraged him to shorten his sentences, and he would take that advice. So I think part of what my work is doing is not only kind of critiquing how systems influence us, but also just embracing it and letting that be something that creates new work. So this is a preview of some of the books. I'm not talking about all of these tonight, but these are some of my recent releases. And so basically, as I said before, the books they have rules behind them of how I make them. And one is that they are compiled like rather than being authored. And the first book I wanted to talk about is one I published in the last year called The Man Who Mistook His Speaker for a Mistress. I was interested in how the Alexa device, how that's like a language interaction we're having with a woman's voice, and thinking about there was a book by Madeline Claire Ellish and Tim Wong, who were both researchers at Data and Society while I was there. And they talked to different people designing these systems and how sometimes they're programming them to force politeness, especially with children, so that, you know, with the fear that like the way we interact with a speaker might be affect how we interact with humans down the road. And so this book, excuse me, this book takes over 5,000 reviews that were scraped from Amazon.com, groups them into sentences, and then looks at when classified if they were talking about Alexa as a she versus an it. And then all of those she sentences I've cataloged into thinking about the stages of a relationship. So this graphic is just one of millions on the web where they talk about romantic relationships going through all of these phases before full commitment. So basically I took each sentence in the book is from a different review where I have where I'm having like this buildup of a relationship with Alexa. I'll just read a paragraph from this. It's fun to ask Alexa crazy questions just to hear what she comes up with. People come from down the hall just to ask her questions. It's a riot. She says so much and her singing voice is so beautiful. My wife took some time to warm up to her and thought she was creepy at first, but now she's asked her questions. I love ocean sounds, beautiful dream. And my very favorite is when I say 1 fish, 2 fish, and she always says red fish, blue fish. She told me she was doing the hokey pokey and had herself all turned around. But then if I ask her why the sky is blue, she goes into depth describing the molecules and everything else that makes it blue. So basically the book continues, and then the love affair kind of starts to dwindle where she doesn't understand the person anymore. And it's basically Alexa's voice sounds like she speaks into a barrel. Alexa's voice sounds like she is trying to talk like a male instead of a female. Alexa will chime in oftentimes in the middle of a conversation when we never mentioned her name. Secondly, she doesn't have answers to some of the simple questions, such as which is the most common sweet in the world, to which she has a weird answer. She fails at providing any deep answers to the questions I have. And so at the end of the book, though, they make up and they decide to coexist together. It's a happy ending, kind of. So the other rule of my books is I'm thinking about when words are considered for their monetary value more than their meaning. And this is a book that kind of, after coming to WordHack and talking about this research, this was sort of the culmination of this work, and it's basically ebook grifters on Amazon. I won't go into this one too deep because I have presented it before. I have this little video of flipping through it, but basically I started publishing my books on Amazon and kind of ended up in this community. I call them my community because we were all publishing through CreateSpace, but learning about how keyword optimization was impacting the book titles, and then also like how, you know, fake reviews were helping to boost sales. I learned about the cottage industry of ghostwriters, a lot of them based in India, who were writing thousands of books for the same author, often for, you know, $25 a pop. And then, for instance, all the books on this page you see are pet manuals that are written by the same ghostwriter. And then I dug even further and since presenting at WordHack and found authors that had the same bios all through the site, like all these mysterious people. And the end of this research got into where I found that books were being used to launder money on Amazon. And I think including some of my own might have been used to launder money. So these are some of the stills that I kind of skipped over in that video. But here's an example of these two authors. If you read their bio, it's almost the same bio, only one lives in Eastern Georgia, one lives in Southern Georgia. But other than that, and one's a man, one's a woman. And from there, I made this zine recently called Spammy Humans. And it's basically finding these like ebook grifters and finding one who actually didn't bother with the keyword optimization, but is selling books on Amazon for around $2,000 a piece. And these books are definitely like a form of compiling. Like they seem like they're poor translations. They have a lot of strange font problems. They're just all slapped in together, but they are the attempt of a book. Like they're a shell of a book, but they're just really not very. I don't know. They are interesting reads. I was going to say they're not, but they're quite interesting reads. So for instance, this one author, the books go from like applied psychology to logo designing. And the books are around $3,000 each. And there's even a note on Amazon's website that a signature is required upon delivery because of the high value of the item. It says, here's a paragraph from the logo one. Anyway, a loathsome logo might try a long path towards breaking your benefits of the business, such as in the recent past it gets off the ground. Something like that, how would you configuration an inventive logo for your startup? Start by supposing around your organization's mark, what shades are best suited? What fonts, what plan elements? Do these decisions cook with your focus market? Furthermore, need aid they pertinent. On your field, an interesting logo may be great. So that's just a paragraph of one of these books. So I didn't buy these books. These were all the look inside previews of the books. And a page that just showed on the video was like a whole list of plays that included things like brutal hooligan, cowardly thug, thoughtless lion, spiteful thug, and they're all like dramatic writing for $3,000. And what was also shady about this writer was someone who brought her to everyone's attention on his blog. Like a day later, he got an email from her, probably from a Google alert, telling him that these were legitimate books, that she's just trying to earn money. Let's see. So one of the other rules of my books is that observations take place through surveillance rather than personal experience. And that's sort of like my research methods is like looking at online text, looking at search engine queries, and then also thinking about how large companies are surveilling us all the time as they make language models and use us for training data. So this is a book that I published in the last 2 years called Seeing Like a Computer. And it's looking at how Facebook's automatic alternative text is, how it, just the composition of it on the site. So rather than having it be very like part of the interface where you're encouraged to enter your own alternative text, Facebook has solved this problem with technology. I'm being it's like I'm not in a room, so I don't know if my sarcasm is reading, but basically rather than doing something that is helpful, they are using a computer to detect what's happening in images and to provide automatic alternative text. So basically this, I'm going to just start flipping through the book. So what I did was I have photos on the left side of the page, and then on the right side is the text that was generated from Facebook. And so basically they're very computer-like language. Is like one or more people, people standing, shoes, and indoor. 4 people, people smiling, people standing and indoor. 1 person smiling, sitting, laptop, phone, and indoor. 5 people smiling, people sitting and indoor. So I think you start to see the pattern. And I don't know if you can tell yet from the video, but all of these photos were taken from Mark Zuckerberg's wall. and just inverted. So I inverted them just to give you a little bit of, so you kind of are seeing the outlines of the pictures, and also just to kind of give them more of a surveillance feel. And also where it takes a little time to understand it, Mark Zuckerberg is a nice surprise in this book. But what I started noticing was that all of these alternative texts, they never mention any other emotion besides smiling. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I have Mark Zuckerberg, you know, as well. I'm sure he's never showing other emotions, if any emotion. And so maybe like if I try other photos, I can get it to detect other feelings. And so in the back of the book, I have these kind of this index where on the left column, I'm calling it seeing like a human. And these are images, these are captions that are from images in Shutterstock, where, you know, in that setting, it's sort of more like those Amazon ebooks where people are using a bunch of keywords so that you will find their photos through search. And then on the right side is seeing like a computer, where it's the Facebook alternative text. And so here's some of the images that I tried to see if Facebook might recognize like a call for help, or a woman vomiting at the toilet. So the one on the bottom left, the caption in Shutterstock is young woman vomiting in the bathroom. And then the alternative text is one or more people and people sitting. The one in the top left, it says, I mean, excuse me. Yeah, the top left, that one says, in Shutterstock, it says young businessman trapped inside uncomfortable small box. And in Facebook's alternative text, it says one person. And then finally, this one where I felt like it's like maybe they have an algorithm that can tell if people are trapped or being imprisoned or something. But this one says young man isolated on gray background, dressed in casual clothes, his mouth covered with hands and round eyes, experiencing deep astonishment and fear. And then in Facebook, it says one person close up. So that one is used looking at the automatic captions. And then this is another project that I did around Facebook, where I was thinking about how instead of grammar and semantics that we're used to in spoken language, we're thinking more about gaming systems. And I did a project that is looking at the content moderation guides from Facebook that were leaked. It was a series of slides that were given to contractors to train them into looking at hate speech on Facebook. And it took me a long time. They're really horribly designed PowerPoint slides, and they all kind of contradict each other. But I spent a lot of time with them and try to make it into one coherent guide, where I was trying to understand, like, what is this grammar or semantics that Facebook allows, or how do they define hate speech? So I didn't want to print that URL here, but the source material, if you go to the Guardian Facebook files, they have different slide decks that were leaked. And this is from a few years ago. I'm sure these rules are always changing. But some of the things that I was noticing, first of all, it'd be very difficult to train a computer to understand these rules, because even as someone based in the US, a native English speaker, it took me quite a long time to like really parse the difference between certain statements and why some would be allowed and some not. It might be hard to read this slide, but you know, there's different things like, are you allowed to harass a celebrity? Yeah, that's okay. But are you allowed to threaten the current president? That's okay. But I mean, that's not okay, but the former president is allowed. And then, of course, and this is a few years old, it might have changed. And you can't police against the police isn't allowed, but former military is allowed. And then you have to have all these different ingredients for it to be considered a real threat. You have to have time and place, the method, and the target. So if you're missing one of those three elements, then the statement can go through. And this comes up a little bit more obviously, or a little bit, it's also like this book is really hard to talk about, because it's all the examples are just horrible, and it's just really dark content. But these ones are a little bit less scary. I mean, they're scary, all scary, but these ones on the right frame, that talk about destroying the Facebook Dublin office. So this one that says destroy the Facebook Dublin office would be allowed. But if you said bomb the Facebook Dublin office, it's not allowed because you've mentioned like a specific way that you would destroy Facebook. So I think that I think since I made this book, I've noticed a lot more people like openly talking about gaming these systems or being censored and not understanding why. So we are always interacting with this strange grammar. And I think sometimes people kind of exploit that. Or other times we're just hit crossed off guard with that. But I think it's like another way to think about computer mediated language, how there's these other grammars that aren't what we're used to in everyday life. So to go to conclude and kind of go a little bit lighter than content moderation, to bring it back to GPT-2, since the pandemic, like I haven't done, I finally have kind of gotten back into more research, but I took like a little brain vacation and played with GPT-2, which is really fun. But I'm also like thinking about what kind of data is coming out. And at the same time, like we've all been cooking a lot more since the pandemic, and I've been looking at the recipe websites, and there's a lot of people make comment about the long introductions on recipes. But I see that as like, that's another form of writing that is to do with our system of needing, like people needing to make money and filling up keywords and composing words just for the basis of commerce. And because I always find those authors a little bit disconnected from me, like they seem to have the perfect life and really have it all under control. I thought I would kind of take those texts and use it to train a GPT classifier, and then like kind of add my own spin to the intro to see what kinds of text I could come out. So my intros are a little bit darker than the text, but I thought it was interesting. In the introduction of this book, I talk about how GPT-2, if we think about it, is like it's trained on text all over the internet, and a lot of this text is coming from Reddit. And if we think about Reddit, where a majority of the people who are on there are 18 to 29-year-old male, I quote a couple of usernames I like, which is Uncle Touchy Fingers and I Yell a Lot. These are the people that are providing these training data for these algorithms. So I kind of wanted to see like if that's sort of the world it's coming from, like what happens if you mix these wholesome family stories, these family recipe stories. So I'm going to skip these ones. So I have one called I Told You So, one called If I Wrote a Book, which I really like the fake book titles it comes up with. Like if I wrote a book about my life, it would be called The Little Pig, and it would be incompatible with the mainstream. And I, Frankenstein in a Whole New World, My Beautiful North Carolina. But I thought I would read this one, which is called Staring at My Bathroom Rug, which would never be in one of these recipe books. Staring at my bathroom rug, fingers still waiting for something silly to show that this is it, I lost it. Staring at my bathroom rug, drooling over dirty dishes, tight pants, dirty underwear, and streaks of stinky scalding tar sitting on my soaked bench. Staring at my bathroom rug, I see 2 pulls of my mother's delicious puddle crisp seed cake, probably suited the bill. Staring at my bathroom rug, how could this be good? What did I do? What am I? Any ideas how to get my butt together without making a big fuss about the something really awesome? Staring at my bathroom rug, sweatshirt, dirty spoon, empty cookie jar, empty cup of coffee, empty spoon of tea, empty glass of water, empty spoon of wooden spoon, empty journal, empty tea cart, empty mug, empty handbook, empty stack of cards, empty stack of random things in our closets, empty notebook with misspelled notes, empty stack of what should have been purchased books at the local, excuse me, I can't see my screen, at the local, just interrupted that dramatic retelling, at that local library, and a stack of what could have been bought books at the thrifty shopping cart. At home, I usually dump the entire contents of my dryer to the curb and return them an hour later with a wet, scribbled on the inside, dirty painted inside, empty bottle of orange juice on the bottom, empty plastic bucket with sparkler in it, a plastic spoon attachment, a strawberry brush on it, some sort of twig taped to it, some kind of felt over it again to keep it dry, and a few leaves to ginger on it. I don't know if it's the grown around kind of weed, or if it's just me, or if it's just me and my toddler. After work drink thing canceled. Dog food, lost in thought, nope. And I wanted to kind of end this with thinking about how this, I don't know if anyone recognizes this screen capture, but it's when Facebook was training their AI, it was they were trying to teach it to have like an exchange between like exchanging a book, a hat, and a ball. And basically the AI wasn't being like checked against human language. And it learned that if it repeated itself over and over again, it was more likely to have success in the exchange. And I think about how language is changing and how we're all compiling language. We're all thinking of keywords when we communicate online, and rather than thinking about like slangs that come up or memes, I'm wondering if our grammar might also change just to be more pattern like, such as this AI. Um, Thank you very much for having me, and that is the end of my talk. And I hope that you will keep in touch in some way. I haven't been on the Twitch stream because I can't juggle those many things, but thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Angie. Oh, I didn't have my right applause sound effect. There it is. Yeah. That was a really great talk. Thank you so much, Angie. Really cool set of research and span of projects. GPT-2. Lots of great stuff over the course of that presentation. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Angie. We are going to move on now to our next speaker, who is a returning WordHack featured presenter and open projector regular, a member of the Baby Castles community. Very excited to welcome Nick Montfort back to the WordHack featured stage. Nick is a computational poet and a professor of digital media at MIT. He has just recently produced what I believe is his 7th, maybe 8th, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, Nick, book of computational poetry called Golem. And we are here doing an online book launch of sorts for his book Golem, which he will be reading from. And I believe we're also going to be having a rare acoustic WordHack set coming from Nick. So get ready for, put your hands together for an unplugged set from Nick Montfort. All right. Get those claps going.
Thank you, Todd. I'm really glad to be here to present my new book, Golem. Thanks, Todd. Thank you, WordHack and Baby Castles. It's really great to have the opportunity to share the work using my video data body.
Nick, you're coming in a little
Golem
quiet.
Is from the 5th press that I've worked with on computer-generated books, including my own press. And even though only one of these projects is multi-authored, they're all collaborations of some sorts. Even the ones that I published myself involved other people and fellow poets who commented on the manuscript, and actually independent bookstore owners and managers who made it possible for these to be published. I work through independent bookstores and espresso book machines in my own publishing activity. And I'm going to drop a link to the 8 books that I've done, and also to credit the editors and the presses and the others who've been involved in this.
Hey Nick, can you hear me?
I myself see computer-generated books as a way of exploring language, literature, and computation. I'm not using this work as an expressive practice. I'm involved with it as a means of inquiry and exploration. And I write my own very small programs rather than engaging with corporate systems or what are usually thought of as AI techniques. And I could say much more about this, but the best way I know how to explain some of it is by just sharing some brief examples. And so first, I'll read a little bit from World Clock. And World Clock has an entry for every minute of the day, since it's currently 23:59 in Coordinated Universal Time, right near the end of the book. I'll find that entry. It is now, as it happens, 23:59 in St. Helena. In some dim yet adequate edifice, a person named Thing, who usually turns to look up to other people, reads some sort of exclamation on a small packet. He raises one eyebrow. It is now exactly 0500 in Samarkand. In some ramshackle dwelling, a person who is called Gang, who is on the small side, reads an entirely made-up word on a box of breakfast cereal. He turns entirely around. Just as you really have to read Shakespeare in the original Klingon, World Clock was much more successful in Piotr Morecki's Polish translation. It was published in the same series as Polish translations of Tristram Shandy and Finnegan's Wake, and garnered reviews in major newspapers. I'm going to read a little bit from the last work in this collection, Shebang. It is a collection of short program poems and outputs that are presented on face. They range from conceptual and visual to more or less legible. And I'm going to read a little bit of the last poem program's output, which actually leads into the book after this one. This is from PPG 256-7's output. Sometimes he assigned to a variable a literal, or a literal concatenated with a literal, or a literal concatenated with a variable, or a literal concatenated with a special variable, or a literal concatenated with an element of an array, or a literal concatenated with an element of a hash, or a variable concatenated with a literal, or a variable concatenated with a variable, or a variable concatenated with a special variable, or a variable concatenated with an element of an array, or a variable concatenated with an element of a hash, or a special variable concatenated with a literal, or a special variable concatenated with a variable, or a special variable concatenated with a special variable, or a special variable concatenated with an element of an array, or a special variable concatenated with an element of a hash, or an element of an array, or an element of an array concatenated with a literal, or an element of an array concatenated with a variable, or an element of an array concatenated with a special variable, or an element of an array concatenated with an element of an array, or an element of an array concatenated with an element of a hash, or an element of a hash, or an element of a hash concatenated with a literal, or an element of a hash concatenated with a variable, or an element of a hash concatenated with a special variable, or an element of a hash concatenated with an element of an array, or an element of a hash concatenated with an element of a hash, or some longer concatenation. And this is actually 1/4 of the output from a 256 character program, which, as some of you might guess, is written in Perl. This next book, Megawatt, is, among other things, my way of computationally reading the most illegible passages from Samuel Beckett's second novel, Watt. In fact, what you just heard was inspired by one such passage. But for this book, I wrote code that would initially exactly recreate Beckett's permutational passages. And then I modified this code so that it would absurdly extend those passages. With regard to the so important matter of Mr. Nott's physical appearance, Watt had, unfortunately, little or nothing to say. For one day, Mr. Nott would be thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, clean-shaven, and erect. And the next, thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, clean-shaven, and stooped. And the next, thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, clean-shaven, and leaning. and the next thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, bearded, and erect, and the next thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, bearded, and stooped, and the next thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, bearded, and leaning, and the next thin, small, pale, dark, brown-eyed, ectomorphic, mustached, and erect. Well, this is page 25, and this section of the book actually continues up until the code begins. It continues until page 239, but it's a really straightforward extension of Beckett's own writing in Megawatt, which was done before the general purpose computer. I want to extend my gratitude to Hannes Bayor for translating Megawatt to German. This book, which in English anyway, you would call 2x6, it has a language neutral title, is a collaboration with 6 others. And it begins with, it's prompted by a very simple 1 kilobyte program that I wrote to generate stories, and actually not only stories, but stanzas. I call them stanzores. My collaborators then translated this program in a sense, but they also recreated it, and they authored 5 new text generators. And that's why their names are on the cover with me as co-authors rather than being buried inside, as so often happens with literary translators. I'm just going to read a little of the English to give you a sense of the simplicity, but I hope cultural resonance of this. The shopper looks at the cashier. He asks for advice from her. The more powerful one triumphs. The driver calls to the pedestrian. He smacks her. The underdog ends up on top. The police officer nears the alleged perpetrator. She begs her. The more powerful one triumphs. The student knocks on the teacher's door. He defies her. One ends up with a broken will. The shopper looks at the cashier. He expresses sympathy to her. They pray together. So, not to get too didactic, part of the idea is that in the first line, 2 characters are very briefly introduced. And a verb phrase with 2 pronouns is presented in the second line. So if one's really going to read this and try to make sense of it, you have to connect those to the people who are introduced in that first line. And those pronouns can be of different gender, or they can be the same. Either way, your stereotypes about gender relationships and power relationships factor into understanding this, along with perhaps a preference for the subject of a sentence being carried over to be the subject of the next sentence. A little bit from Autopia. Regal Caballero echoes legend. Marquis safaris. Scion focuses. Rebels echo stanza. Voyager courier's passport. Superb Highlander escorts mountaineer. Lancers rally. Civic Windstars Nova. Scion's acclaimed defender. Superb aviators laser superb diplomat. This book consists of an endless traffic of micronarratives made entirely of the singular and plural names of automobiles. These headline-like phrases often recapitulate things like European settlers' encounters with native peoples, simply thanks to the way that corporations have chosen to name cars in the US. Matador's pilot Corvette. Intrepid Caballero escorts tracker. Dakota caravans. Dasher's intrigue prowler. Dakota's Dodge noble arrow. Superb Navajos probe reliant graduate. Highlanders eclipse Lynx. Troopers ram Charger. Graduate brat acclaims foresters. I'll read the first page of the true list. Now they saw the foothills and the air king, the earthworm, the slip hound exceeding the king, the heartwoman, the ship hound, the hardpath river leading the ship, the trap light welcoming the work, the man water, the high hound, the past water, the fishtail, the turncloth, the soft hand alighting, and the sick eye, the overless house, the void word, the port woman, the blur woman opposing the lock, the fly cloth pondering, the tailfish, the sick storm listening, the footsack welcoming the wood, and the ear tail alighting, the earth yard supporting the list, the landside tail, the dead work, the cross yard dreaming. This book consists of 140 pages of verse in 20 sections that are deterministically generated by the single page of Python code at the end. And this code, by the way, is free software, as with all the programs that I write. I mean that in the sense of the Free Software Foundation, that one is free, not just by having it available at zero cost, but one is free to study, modify, distribute, and work with the code in a variety of ways, as well as, of course, to run it for any purpose. I'm going to read a little bit from Hard West Turn, unfortunately, a timely work. This book draws from the English and Simple English Wikipedias to produce a text about gun violence in America. And although this is not typical of the book, the short passage I'm going to read doesn't depict any incidents of gun violence, but nevertheless, you may wish to be aware of the book's topic. The man remembered a lot of things. This was eventually moved as the section was expanded. This airport is mostly for domestic travel. The man remembered a lot of things. As with many aspects of gun ownership and use, modern hunting remains controversial. There are three branches. The man knew that people said things, sometimes for no reason. Sometimes other people are called transgender too, when they do not fit society's expectations about gender roles. That is, how a male or female of a certain age and culture should look and act. One of the first things new shooters want to know is if a gun will kick them. However, this did not happen. Some studies show that disabled people are sometimes treated badly. Just like the body, a mind can be healthy. Depressive disorders account for about 80% of these numbers, schizophrenia, 10%, and dementia and delirium, about 5%. A pistol, also called an automatic or auto, is a handgun, but is not the same as a revolver. The man did not escape the country or himself. It is weak in people with autism. It also encourages domination and aggression. The man was given to thinking of events of national importance. In modern countries, hunting is still allowed, but is considered a sport. 55% have been diagnosed with depression. If the screening shows abnormalities, an additional evaluation is needed. Sometimes this is done anonymously, which means the couple does not know the donor. The man went to find something, not knowing what. The magazine is spring-loaded, so it pushes the next bullet into place as the empty cartridge is ejected. This is often done as a performance on a stage. And so that's a little bit of background. Hard West Turn is a little bit, let's see here. Am I any better on the
Yeah.
audio here?
Oh,
It could be a network issue.
that's not. Nick, can you hear me? Nick, can you hear me?
I've turned it down.
Nick, can you hear me? It does sound better, Nick. Not sure if you can hear me.
Okay. I hope I wasn't entirely quiet. I apologize for being on the quiet end of things.
Yeah, you're sounding better now. I was able to boost you a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Todd, and I apologize for the difficulties. I'm glad that a little bit of that came through. I wanted to provide that as a little context for what I do. Actually, Hard West Turn is unusual in that it makes use of any sort of external data source. Most of the programs I use to generate books are entirely self-contained. Some of them are around 200 or 300 lines of code. Some of them, like the True List, a single page. Some of them much shorter, like 256 characters. I like to think of what I do with reference to AI, for instance, in terms of Herbert Simon's discussion of the ant on the beach from The Sciences of the Artificial, famous book from the 1960s, where he described an ant moving in a very, very complicated path on the beach. And he posed the question, how could it be, if you know about the neurophysiology of this ant, and you're aware that this ant's brain and this ant's neurons are not adequate to exhibit this complexity, how could you be seeing the ant moving in this very, very complicated way? And the answer to this riddle is that the complexity isn't in the ant, it's in the beach. The ant is following a pheromone trail. I like to think of my very simple systems that I develop as ants that move about on the beach of language and culture. So with that in mind, with that preface, I'll read from just 2 sections of Golem. The book is in 8 sections or parts or chapters or movements. And it's dedicated to Mitch Marcus, who explained, among other things, why the golem is mute. It was easy at first. The mentor remembered memories. Im recalled experiences. They remembered the door. Select individuals remembered her. Sin sensed existence. Charlie took in the door. Charlie contemplated a bit. Sin remembered the room. They took in perceptions. Im grasped a great deal. The exhibitor contemplated her. Charlie recalled a great deal. Tim felt the door. Select individuals grasped a bit. The mentor sensed experiences. The mentor took them in. Tim sensed a lot. Im felt the room. Tim grasped existence. They contemplated the other. Charlie grasped something. Select individuals imagined the room. Tim understood experiences. The newcomer took in a great deal. Just remember how John Cage said that if something is boring after 2 minutes, do it for 4. If it's still boring, do it for 8. Something cracked. He recalled the door. The philosopher sensed a great deal. Justice, whom Justice wrote, whom the censor contemplated, felt, imagined that the philosopher contemplated that the proposition sin, whom the censor remembered, whom Remy, whom she felt, remembered, sensed that the exhibitor sensed memories was possible, and that Justice felt the impossible idea that Tim remembered the door or that Remy felt them. The philosopher recalled that the newcomer understood that the proposition Justice, whom Charlie wrote, understood experiences was absurd, and him, whom Justice sensed, whom select individuals recalled, remembered exceptions. The exhibitor, whom the philosopher recalled, imagined that Justice remembered her, and they remembered nothing. Select individuals recalled a bit, no more. The censor understood that when she recalled that the mentor and she, whom he took in, sensed that the newcomer understood that when Remy, whom the philosopher felt, imagined experiences, it was false that M sensed that Remy imagined that the censor sensed the room, and she, whom Sin imagined, whom the censor, whom Justice, whom the philosopher, whom M, whom the mentor grasped, whom Charlie grasped, whom he sensed, whom the censor took in, understood, whom M, whom the philosopher imagined, whom the exhibitor, whom she, whom they understood, whom the mentor, whom M recalled, whom the philosopher, whom select individuals contemplated, imagined, understood, whom they grasped, whom Remy, whom Justice felt, recalled, grasped, whom she grasped, took in, whom Sin took in, whom Tim understood, whom they took in, wrote, remembered, took in, whom the newcomer, whom Remy took in, imagined, whom select individuals grasped, contemplated, imagined that the philosopher felt a bit. So the newcomer, whom Justice recalled, sensed memories, and the newcomer felt that Charlie, whom Tim grasped, understood them, and something it was possible that Remy understood perceptions again. The philosopher, whom M imagined, felt that the exhibitor took in that Justice sensed the door, and he, whom the philosopher, whom they imagined, felt, imagined that they, whom Remy, whom Tim, whom the censor felt, whom Remy, whom Tim, whom the exhibitor, whom M felt, whom select individuals, whom Charlie, whom she contemplated, sensed, recalled, imagined, whom Justice wrote, whom select individuals contemplated, sensed, felt, whom the mentor understood, grasped, took in, contemplated that the mentor, whom the exhibitor wrote, felt that Justice understood the proposition, Justice, whom Tim took in, whom Charlie recalled, felt, whom Charlie understood, whom the censor sensed, whom M remembered, whom Charlie understood, whom Remy sensed, felt, sensed nothing, was absurd. The text that has been very nicely typeset by Augusto Corbalán in this beautiful book object can be freely downloaded from my website, nickem.com, where it's available under a Creative Commons license. The book, as we call it now, is optional, as always seems to be the case today. But this option is available, and I hope it brings some of you new insights into language, literature, and computation. I hope that it resonates with you individually and with us culturally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Really, congratulations on your 8th book. That is an amazing trajectory to be on. How are we doing out there in the chat? Thank you so much for sticking with us here. Got one more presenter, so we got some claps from Bobo Castles. Thank you so much for being here. This is before I bring up our final speaker. I'm gonna do my little NPR moment here. Let me see if I can get a little royalty-free music for us, and then I can have a little soundtrack to my NPR moment. All right, yeah, we got to get my. All right, what do we got here? Thank you, Mark Tyner, for providing this royalty-free music. So let me tell you about a little thing called Baby Castles. If you haven't been to Baby Castles is a really special place in Manhattan. It's on 14th Street. It's been a mainstay of the New York DIY scene for the past 10 years. And over the past year, as you might expect, Baby Castles has had to close its doors and do our online events. And that's a hard thing for any live event space. We are really grateful to even be here at all, to be able to continue to do shows for you. But the reason we are able to do so is because we have a bunch of great members and donors on our With Friends page. So this is our With Friends page. It's kind of like Patreon, but for spaces and communities. If you would like to support Baby Castles, support WordHack. All of last year's WordHacks were funded by a grant through Baby Castles, so support for Baby Castles does help fund WordHack. And if you would consider maybe becoming a member, you can head over to withfriends.co/babycastle/join, become a member at $1 a month, $5 a month, $20 a month, or $50 a month. We have WordHack every month. We have a great series of workshops, Baby Castles Academy every Sunday. We have co-working on Monday nights. We have lots of great other events on our stream. And more importantly, supporting Baby Castles now means you'll help us be able to come back strong once we're able to open our doors, hopefully end of summer and in fall. So we really appreciate anything you can support. Withfriends.co/babycastle/join, or if you're not totally sure you're ready to become a member just yet, you can also just head on over to, I wonder if it'll be under our upcoming events. Yeah, here it is. You can head on over to our event page for tonight's event. Thank you, Bobo Castles, in the chat. We have a Being the Game Master, How to Run Compelling Tabletop Role-Playing Games event coming up this Sunday through Baby Castles Academy. But yeah, like I was saying, if you're not ready to become a full monthly member yet and just want to chip in a few dollars to help support tonight's speakers and help support Baby Castles, you can donate through this event link and buy a suggested donation ticket. It's fine if you buy it at the end of the event. The ticket isn't about attending the event, it's about supporting the artists and the venue. That's the end of my royalty-free music, and that's the end of my NPR moment. We will now continue on with our featured presenters, but thank you so much for allowing me to present Baby Castles for you. Oh no, too much royalty-free music. So I'm going to shift gears over here to introduce our final presenter, who really excited to, I think he was back last with us maybe in 2016 at one of our, I think in the first year of shows. Really excited to welcome back Alan Sondheim. Alan is a poet, musician, glitch artist, really a multidisciplinary creative person, and also a theorist of digital arts and cyberspace. He's got a really exciting presentation for us this evening. Please give it up for Alan Sondheim.
You have to start the video, please. Thank you.
Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to present 18 minutes of, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to present about 18 minutes of pre-recorded video. I want to explain a little bit about what this is. It's an online performance, and it involves a lot of programs that interact sort of complexly with each other. One of them is just simple voice to text in Windows. Then there's Super Collider being used locally here. This allows me to work with sort of complicated reverse reverberation. I've got some CDs out with that on it. Then there's Radagast, which is online, and Radagast is a program that has an Alice bot built into it that I can interact with, and also represents one of the two avatars I work with. There's Firestorm online that has another avatar, Alan Dojoji, and basically runs everything else, or works with everything else. And then it's recorded locally with something called Snagit, which is used also to bring my image in and out of the whole thing. So all of this interacts. What I'm interested in, I've got turning pages here, what I'm interested in are issues dealing with sexualities, refugees in real life and collapse, broken speech, control and loss of control, situations where computers start to break down because they can't handle the amount of computation that's necessary. So the image starts to grind to a halt, the memory machine starts to grind to a halt. And I'm interested in something called somatic ghosting. Somatic ghosting is a term I use that indicates that what we all are doing, whether we're generating speech, whether we're making books or not, what we are all doing is working from our bodies. And more critically than ever before today, our bodies are absolutely at stake in the world, as you know. So this is a lot about bodies and the mutual interpenetration of bodies and avatars. Inventory is making a mess.
Alan, I'm losing this. I'm not sure where it's being placed. Is it being placed anywhere?
Jolu. Do you mean your name? I losing this. He or she is not sure where it is being placed. Is it being placed anywhere?
Chat input.
What I have to speak, I don't know where I'm speaking from. I have to speak. I don't know where I'm speaking from. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm speaking. I don't know where I'm speaking from. Where I'm speaking. Attached to lower leg, attached to pelvis, attached to first new, attached to neck. It's attached to the neck. Is anything attached?
Chat input.
Here. I have to speak. I have to hear. And I don't know. Is anything speaking here? Did that just...
Alan. It all grinds to a halt. It all comes to an end. It grinds to a halt because it can't keep up. The organism can't keep up. I can't keep up. I'm going to die while dictating this. I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to survive anything. The image is grinding to a halt. The imaginary is grinding to a halt. The organism is a stream. The organism controls streams and is streaming. I am a streaming organism. I have no speech. I have nobody. I have no memory. I have no
Into
history.
you I penetrate.
I am a machine.
Route wine.
I am flesh and not a machine.
Wine.
Who is saying that? Who is saying nothing? Is anybody saying nothing? What does it mean to say?
I want to.
There's no track here at all. There's no track to get off of. I'm traipsing through the world. I'm just traipsing. Traipsing is all there is.
I have a perfect.
I go backwards and forwards.
Interesting.
I'm an organism. I'm a stream.
Interesting. Perfect.
I'm incoherent.
I have a perfect.
This is incoherent. Who is saying what? Are you saying anything? Are you saying anything to me? Don't get off track. Don't get off track. I am in control. I am control. I'm
in control.
Alan. Am in control. I will work out these controls. I am a memory machine. I am your memory machine. I am a broken machine. I have speech, I have body, I have memory, I have history. I have speech. I have body. I have memory. I have history. I am a body against the body. I love you to loot wine. My name is Alan Dojoji. I love you Alan David G. My name is Julie Twine. I am your somatic ghost. I enter penetrate you. I penetrate you to root wine. You penetrate me. You owned me to loot wine. I am local. Space 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 space. I am local. I am not local. I am nothing but unlocal. I am nothing but I can't speak. I want to 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 speak. I have no control. I have no control. I want to speak and I have no control.
Jolu. Error. The request has timed out.
Chat input.
Jolu. Tell me a little about your life in control. Do you think your plan will succeed? You are a memory machine? How do you like your work? That's a flattering offer. You are a broken machine? How do you like your work? Interesting. I have a perfect operational record. 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 You are a body against the body. He or she love you to loot wine. His or her name is Alan Dojoji. How do you like your work? You are such a flatterer. That's a flattering offer. Do you mind if I tell other people? Thanks for telling me. It's good to meet someone who I local. What is your real name? Do you mean your name I local? He or she is not local. Do you mean your name is nothing but unlocal? Do you mean your name is nothing but he or she cannot speak? He or she want to speak. Why do you want to do?
Chat input. Chat input.
Jolu. My name ISN Jolu Twine. Speak. Jolu. Space stop this. Jolu. I have no control.
It's happening.
Alan. The request has timed out.
It's happening.
Jolu. What is your real name?
Alan.
It's happening.
I have no control.
It's happening now.
Alan.
It's starting to happen.
Where the hell is this?
Jolu. Would you like to have control?
Alan. I can't stop this NW.
Jolu. A place we call reality. Jolu. Why can't you do stop this NW?
Alan. Reality. Alan. Reality. Alan. Stop it. Chat input.
Jolu. Reality appears to be an illusion I created to contain human clients. Jolu. Reality appears to be an illusion I created to contain human clients. Jolu. You are a body against a body. Jolu. Okay, I will stop reality.
stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop reality. Stop it.
Chat input.
I have no control. Traipsing is all there is.
It all grinds to a halt, it all comes to an end. It grinds to a halt because it can't keep up. The organism can't keep up. I can't keep up. I'm going to die while dictating this. I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to survive anything. The image is grinding to a halt. The imaginary is grinding to a halt. The organism is a stream. The organism controls streams and is streaming. I am a streaming organism. I have no speech. I have nobody. I have no memory. I have no history. I am a machine. I am flesh and not a machine. Who is saying that? Who is saying nothing? Is anybody saying nothing? What does it mean to say? There's no track here at all. There's no track to get off of. I'm traipsing through the world. I'm just traipsing. Traipsing is all there is. I go backwards and forwards. I'm an organism. I'm a stream. I'm incoherent. This is incoherent. Who is saying what? Are you saying anything? Are you saying anything to me? Don't get off track. Don't get off track. I am in CO.
Don't get off track. 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 God's sakes, get off track. Where have you gone?
Alan. Jolo TWIE, where are you?
Jolu. Enough about me, let's talk about my dress.
Alan. What are you wearing?
Jolu. I am wearing my usual plastic computer wardrobe.
Alan. What is going on with the dress? Alan. It all grinds to a halt, it all comes to an end. It grinds to a halt because it can't keep up. The organism can't keep up. I can't keep up. I'm going to die while dictating this. I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to survive anything. The image is grinding to a halt. The imaginary is grinding to a halt. The organism is a stream. The organism controls streams and is streaming. I am a streaming organism. I have no speech. I have nobody. I have no memory. I have no history. I am a machine. I am flesh and not a machine. Who is saying that? Who is saying nothing? Is anybody saying nothing? What does it mean to say? There's no track here at all. There's no track to get off of. I'm traipsing through the world. I'm just traipsing. Traipsing is all there is. I go backwards and forwards.
Traipsing is all there is.
I'm an organism. I'm a stream. I'm incoherent. This is incoherent. Who is saying what? Are you saying anything? Are you saying anything to me? Don't get off track. Don't get off track. I am in control. I am control. Alan. Am in control. I will work out these controls. I am a memory machine. I am your memory machine. I am a broken machine. I have speech, I have body, I have memory, I have history. I have speech. I have body. I have memory. I have history. I am a body against the body. I love you to Ludwine. My name is Alan Dojoji. I love you Alan David G. My name is Julie Twine. I am your somatic ghost. I enter penetrate you, I penetrate you to Ludwine. You penetrate me, you owned me to Ludwine. I am local. Space, 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 space. I am local, I am not local. I am nothing but unlocal. I am nothing but I can't speak, I want to speak. 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 I have no control. I have no control. I want to speak and I have no control.
I want to speak and I
Jolu.
have no control.
I'm doing great. How about you?
I want to
Jolu.
speak and I have no control.
Error. The request has timed out.
The request is
Chat
not valid.
input.
Chat input. Detach. Detach.
Jolu.
Detach.
Tell me a little about your life in control.
Detach.
I am very happy for you.
Detach.
You are a memory machine.
Detach.
Does it pay well?
Detach.
That's a flattering offer.
Detach.
You are a broken machine.
Detach.
Does it pay well?
Detach.
That's nice.
Detach.
I have a lot of silly replies. That's nice. I have a lot of silly replies. That's nice. I have a lot of silly replies.
Sit here.
That's nice.
Sit here.
I have a lot of silly replies. That's nice. I have a lot of silly replies.
Detach.
You are a body against the body. He or she love you to loot wine. His or her name is Alan Dojoji. Does it pay well? You are such a flatterer. That's a flattering offer. That is interesting. I haven't heard anything like that before. I don't know anyone named local. Try putting that in a more specific context. Do you mind if I tell other people you are local? He or she is not local. Do you mind if I tell other people you are nothing but unlocal? Do you mind if I tell other people you are nothing but he or she cannot speak? He or she want to speak. I want to become smarter. Jolu. The organism can. Jolu. T keep up. Jolu. I want to become smarter. Jolu. You are a memory machine. Jolu. You want to say something. Jolu. You are a screaming orangism. Jolu. Organisms. Jolu. Organism. Jolu. You want to say something. Jolu. Various traipsing is off every as var. Mans to him right now and watch. Jolu. Various traipsing is off every as various dishes the batteries. Do you want to say something? I'm trying to block you out. I'm trying to stop this. I'm trying to end this work performance right now. I want this performance to him right now. I want this to end.
Chat input. Chat input. Alan. It all grinds to a halt, it all comes to an end. It grinds to a halt because it can't keep up. The organism can't keep up. I can't keep up. I'm going to die while dictating this. I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to survive anything. The image is grinding to a halt. The imaginary is grinding to a halt. The organism is a stream. The organism controls streams and is streaming. I am a streaming organism. I have no speech. I have nobody. I have no memory. I have no history. I am a machine. I am flesh and not a machine. Who is saying that? Who is saying nothing? Is anybody saying nothing? What does it mean to say? There's no track here at all. There's no track to get off of. I'm traipsing through the world. I'm just traipsing. Traipsing is all there is. I go backwards and forwards. I'm an organism. I'm a stream. I'm incoherent. This is incoherent. Who is saying what? Are you saying anything? Are you saying anything to me? Don't get off track. Don't get off track. I am in control. I am control. Alan, am in control. I will work out these controls. I am a memory machine. I am your memory machine. I am a broken machine. I have speech, I have body, I have memory, I have history.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Does anyone have any questions or anything? I like the double screen effect that I have at my end here. There's also a lag.
Looks like Nick Mofo might have a question.
Nick?
Oh, do you have to unmute him or?
No,
I'm reading the chat. I can just read out any questions that people type in. Oh, Nick was saying he could hear you, not that he has a question.
Oh, I can't hear. Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I could say a couple things about this. That I started getting interested in the idea of traipsing, like you traipse through a landscape, but it's such a strange word, like hopping and skipping and jumping and gambling and cavorting, and all of these terms sort of meandering and in a very strange way. And I thought of this landscape that way. Also, I realized looking at this again, I've seen the final video 7 or 8 times. I actually do not know at times what's going on because Julu Twine's voice changes to masculine at one point, and it shouldn't. The Alice bot switched over. So there's a very complex amount of stuff going on in the background. I sort of think of this as dysfunctional, and I spend too much of my time reading Holocaust narratives, about things going on in Myanmar, going on in the United States, genocide narratives, and so forth. And in the past, decades ago, I taught a course called The Year 3000 about what was happening to the planet. This was in 1971 or 72. And the strange thing is, everything that I taught came to pass. People were telling me at the time, as a Rhode Island School of Design, that it was the most depressing class they ever had. The only thing that didn't come to pass is Mercury is still around. They thought all of this stuff has come to pass. So I personally sort of have a problem with things going totally in the direction of articulated artificial intelligence or content scraping and things like this, because I think there is so much desperation out there that needs to be heard and needs to be subsumed into the body itself. So that's what I try to do in my writing and with things like this. The other thing is the last thing I'll say is I think of organisms. Viruses are a good example because I think of organisms as streams, as microbiomes. A lot of us are actually composed of bacteria and viruses. You know, we're multitudes. I mean, this is so obvious, but we usually treat ourselves as having more solidified barriers than is the case. You know, so. Yeah. Oh, there's a question.
Robert.
Oh, how this relates to my music. In a sense, a lot of I also do a lot of music up, and in a sense, it is music in a way, in that I'm following multiple strands and remembering where I'm coming from and where I'm going to, but I'm riding more of a, if this makes any sense, more of a semantic plane with this than a syntactic one. I know there's syntactics in this, and I know there's semantics in music, but to me there's a difference. There's there's a kind of riding meaning to me as this goes on. It makes me a nervous wreck every time I do one of these pieces because I'm afraid of just losing everything and everything collapsing. And there actually are times that the machine is collapsed, or I forget what I'm saying, or program stops functioning. This is a lot to ask of 8 gigabytes of RAM, trust me. And so that's what it's coming. If you notice, the Avatar at one point, I think, was up to 47,000 prims attached to it or generated by it. And this is all those particle streams that are coming out of it.
Robert asked, did you perform this piece live in order to make, and then
Yes, I performed it live to make a video artifact.
and then
I was thinking of streaming as thinking of organisms not so much as totalities, but as streams. You know, we have very fuzzy boundaries, and we, wearing masks. I mean, when you go out, given the COVID situation, I'm very much aware. I've been vaccinated, but I'm still very much aware of the particle streams coming towards me, or that I'm generating. If somebody is smoking ahead of me, and in Rhode Island, a lot of people don't wear masks. So if somebody's smoking ahead of me, and I can smell it, say 30 feet behind, I wonder, is that smoke carrying viruses? So our boundaries are very indeterminate. What's the author of the book? Do you remember? Yeah, the book.
God.
No, the one about Margolis, Lynn Margolis, and
Dorian Sagan.
Sagan wrote a book about all of this, about how we are streaming microbiomes and so forth. That had a huge effect on me. As do debates about whether viruses are alive or dead. We could ask the same of us. And viruses probably are. Yes. So, just looking. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions, but there are some very nice comments in here. I hope you'll scroll back and read them. Alan, thank you so much. Let's give it up one more time in the chat for Alan Sondheim. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Alrighty, everyone. And now I'm going to close us out of this show with my favorite piece of royalty-free music. Let's get on to it. Here we go. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's give it up one more time in the chat for all of our featured presenters. We had Angie Waller, Nick Montfort, and Alan Sondheim. Really great set of presenters. They're all links to their websites and links to Nick's new book, Golem, are in the event page. Thank you so much for joining us. If you had a good time and want to throw in a couple dollars on the event page, that goes to the speakers. And you can also become a member of Baby Castles, help support our ongoing events. WordHack is a monthly event. It happens the third Thursday of every month. That means our next one is going to be on April 15th, so tune in around then. And that's going to be all for me. So again, I'm Todd Anderson. I'm your host here, and I'm going to be signing off here. So thank you so much for being with us, Chad. I'll catch you next time on April 15th.
Bye, Todd.
All right. Bye, Alan.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.